A group of former Nigerian governors who served in 1999 met with President Bola Tinubu in Abuja on Wednesday to pledge their support and cooperation. The meeting was attended by 26 of the 36 governors who served in 1999, including Lucky Igbinedion of Edo State, Joseph Dariye of Plateau, Adamu Ailero of Kebbi, and Attah Bafarawa of Sokoto State. Igbinedion said that the purpose of the meeting was to assure President Tinubu of the group's support and cooperation. The former governors congratulated the president on his election and thanked him for appointing one of them, George Akume, as the secretary to the government of the federation. Among the former governors in attendance at the meeting with President Tinubu were those of Plateau State, Joshua Dariye, Kebbi Adamu Ailero, Sokoto Attah Bafarawa, Ni Adebayo of Ekiti, and Saminu Turaki of Jigawa, and Ahmed Muazu of Bauchi State, amongst others.
Former Akwa Ibom State Governor Obong Victor Attah now joins us live to review Wednesday's meeting between the governors of the class of 1999 and President Tinubu. He's also going to be giving us his assessment of the Tinubu administration since coming into office and discussing the state of the Nigerian nation. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and welcome to Newsday.
Thank you.
All right, we saw that lovely...
Glad to be here with you.
We're glad to have you. We saw the clip and the photos of the class of 1999 governors with President Tinubu. Nostalgia aside, it looked like a very nice meeting. But what, in your assessment, are the gains of such a meeting? What can those governors offer, or what could they even gain from this meeting with our president?
Well, you know, even when we were serving as governors, we used to have governors' meetings, and those meetings were attended by the president, and the secretary of the government of the federation, and all we discussed was the good of Nigeria, how to move Nigeria forward. And the residue of knowledge and capability still resides with that group till today. And so meeting with our own colleague, who is now the president, the #1 citizen, was to assure him that we can't continue the discussions we used to have on how to make Nigeria a better union, and to give him the support of his colleagues. I believe that in any situation, if you have the support of your colleagues, you feel a lot more confident about some of the things that you're doing. And that was the sense of the meeting.
Well, I'd like to know if you also talked about burning national issues. For instance, the president has been taking quite a number of very bold decisions, like the removal of fuel subsidy, without putting in place palliative measures. President Tinubu has asked Nigerians to be patient, likening the hardship, to pains just before experiencing childbirth. But some people believe that the government has been a bit insensitive in the manner in which fuel subsidy was removed. So I'm wondering how you would advise the president, to balance leadership and the hard decisions that must be taken with being sensitive to the plight of Nigerians.
This particular decision, has been suffered a lot of procrastination, a lot of postponement. You remember the story by our own revered minister, Ngozi Iweala, who said that the cabal behind this fuel scam of subsidy were the ones that kidnapped our mother. And every successive government since then has made an attempt to remove it, or has made promises, in fact, to remove, and then at the last minute, they would withdraw, either because they were threatened or they had reason to withdraw, let me put it that way. So for somebody to come in, knowing therefore that this is something that needed to be done, and goes ahead and does it, I think is commendable. And we commended him for that boldness, and we encouraged him, because we know, like he himself said when in response, yes, before a child is born, there are always pains of childbirth. And he has promised that he will find ways of alleviating some of those problems, or some of those pains. So we think it was the right decision to make, and we stand by him on that decision firmly.
And it's very interesting to hear a bunch of men speaking about the pains of childbirth. But it can't be, it's definitely a good way to describe what we're going through. It's a bit painful. We do know that there's a state of emergency that has been declared on food security, and also recent news about the 500 billion naira that the president is asking for in order to create some palliatives and a cushion effect for the Nigerians who have been very hard hit by the removal of the subsidy and et cetera. With these situations, most of the fear comes in the implementation of the disbursement of these 500 million naira worth of palliatives. We have an issue with misappropriation. We've seen videos from back in 2020 when there were palliatives that were hoarded in some governors and some local council buildings. The fear is that some of this money will go into the wrong hands. Is there a way to safeguard the implementation and the disbursement of these funds, if they do get approved, so that the problem is actually mitigated and the money is not stuck in the hands of those who already have a lot of it?
Yeah, you must acknowledge that I'm not the one, and not even the group. The group is not the one that's administering this money. So
of course, no,
all we can do is hope that
I was not trying to give that impression. We have to respect the integrity
of the people that are. Yeah, we want to hope that that cannot happen under this government. That's really what we can do. Because, and the other methods, I don't know that there's only one method of alleviating these pains, which we all are going through. Don't forget, it's not only the people that are directly affected, even the employer is directly affected, because everybody demanding an increase in salary and all kinds. Some even are leaving work because they feel that by the time they spend their money going to work and there's nothing left. In fact, the ridiculous statement about your take-home pay cannot take you home maybe begins to apply, and people are staying away from work and things like that. So I'm sure the government, with the machinery and the mechanisms that they have in place, are beginning to look into how to do this. But we did not go there to discuss how and why or wherefore. We just thought it was a good idea to remove this subsidy because everybody acknowledges that it was a scam, and it remains so. And look at the volume of fuel now that they say we consume. Far, far less than what it used to be. Why is that so? Yes, people will say people are parking their cars because they cannot afford the cost of fuel. But I think it's because there was a big scam. This thing was smuggled out at a much lower price, sold at a much higher price, and the money was brought back. So already we are seeing benefits to the country. To remove over how many trillions that we're paying, was it every month? It's ridiculous as a subsidy on fuel. So I think it is a bold step that needed to be taken. And when somebody does something that needed to be done, you have to encourage him to do it and perhaps do more.
But would it be so difficult or impossible to name and shame who these cabals are, that benefited from this scam? Would it be so difficult or impossible to actually find them and punish them instead of having, vulnerable Nigerians suffer, for the misdeed of a few?
So having punished them, should the scam continue? We are dealing here with removal of this, and I think it is a good idea.
It has been removed. And
whether
I believe a large number of Nigerians support the removal.
A different matter.
But shouldn't those that benefited from the scam, shouldn't they also be punished? That's what I'm asking. I'm not saying that fuel subsidy should remain. It's been removed. But what happened to those that benefited from it? Are they going to go scot-free?
What happens to those that stole money in some other methods? It's up to the judiciary. It's up to the people that have responsibility for prosecution. That group does not have such powers. Yes, we can recommend to the president that, look, having removed this subsidy, do something about those that perpetrated it. See whether you can even recover some of the money that was stolen. Yes, all those are recommendations. And I believe it is proper. As a matter of fact, it's been said that one of the main reasons why this impunity continues in Nigeria is because nobody ever suffers the consequence of impunity. And it's not only in the area of fuel scam, but several other areas. People do whatever they want to do criminally, and then they suffer no consequences. So you can ask that question of any and everything about that goes wrong in the country. Why should people not be punished? Not just for this, but for several other criminal things that they do. That's the question. And we want to hope that this government will not allow that impunity to continue.
All right. What is the current state of the compatriots? We do know that the last time we had you on the show, you were just before the elections, you were speaking on the fact that Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed, Professor Pat Utomi, and other very eminent and highly regarded Nigerians had formed this body in order to steer Nigeria back on course and to give some, I guess, fatherly advice to individuals whoever came out as ruling the country at the time. Now that we know that President Tinubu is there and he is a former 1999 classmate of yours, what is the state of the compatriots? What role are they willing to play in this current government?
The compatriots is not a social media group. It's a group of very serious and very eminent Nigerians who feel that there's a way we can change Nigeria from an aspiring nation to a prosperous nation. And we don't have to rush and comment on every item or everything that happens in the country at the time it happens. I can tell you that the immediate concern at the time was the success of the elections, the conduct of the elections, and making sure that there was no violence at the time of the elections. We're also hoping that there'll be a clear and thorough way of conducting these elections without too many flaws. But sadly, there were a lot of flaws, and at the moment, we're waiting to see what the court says. But in the meantime, we want to come out with our own ideas of how to give a direction to Nigeria. But we have to wait. We are not rushing into anything, and the compatriots, they're still very much there. And you can ask the same question about the Peace Committee. The Peace Committee has had an immediate concern at the time of the elections. They don't have to keep making noise when there's no need to. The same is true of the compatriots. But when the time comes, yes, we are in the process of recruiting more members now because that was a nucleus of the compatriots. We are expanding now the membership, and then we will come out with ideas on what we think the government should do. The compatriots is a very serious group.
Well, thank you very much, sir. The 2023 general elections, also brought up the tribal, religious, and ethnic divisions, threatening our country's unity. So I'm wondering, how this divide can be bridged. How can we strengthen the bonds of nationhood as regards playing the politics of ethnicity, of religion? How do we overcome all those divides and actually be unified as a nation?
I think perhaps now Victor Attah talking, I think we should start with reconciling the various conflicting groups and elements that showed up during the election. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of anomy, if I can say that. And we have to really start by reconciling people and making them realize and accept the fact that at the end of the day, we want to have one country that we can, and not just one country, build into a nation that we can all be proud of and proud citizens of. And then we will discuss how best to move forward and resolve this. These tribes were always there, but the conflicts were not as evident or as devastating as they seem to be now. What are the causes? We have maybe have a seminar. We have to have and discuss and look at the root causes of these things. Is the root in the constitution? Is the root in the management of the economy? What is it that's causing all these problems? We have to look into those and then put up our own, and it'll be only an opinion, because the whole country must agree to what they want the country to be. And I keep referring to the fact that it took us 7 years, from 1953 to 1960, to agree to a system of government which at the time was, we must be a true federal, have a true federal system, and it was to be parliamentary governance, with all that goes with it. That means total resource control, state police, in fact, let me remind you, the regions that formed the federation at the time were so independent that each one of them had an agent called an agent general in London, and it's only the one that represented all of Nigeria was called the High Commissioner. That's the extent to which everyone was independent, and nobody was jealous of anybody else. At that time, too, the West was paying 5 shillings, the North was paying 2 shillings, the East was paying 3 shillings as the salary. And nobody made a rule about common salary, uniformity. There was no uniformity, because there isn't a uniformity of means. There's a uniformity of opportunity, and you can take advantage of that opportunity anytime. Maybe we read there's a lot we have to do, even digging back into our past to see what we can bring to help the future.
All right. And at this time, as the country has entrusted our newly elected senators and lawmakers, we've given them the responsibility of lawmaking oversight functions, all the key issues that allow and shape our legislatures and our policies in order to make Nigeria work. Knowing that you're not still a part of this, I still would like to get your opinion on what you think the lawmakers should have on their priority list in the next couple of days in order to steer Nigeria back on course.
Well, to start with, I was never a part of it. So you say no longer a part of it. I was never a part of that. I was part of the executive and never a part of the legislature. But I believe that the legislators should be sincere about looking at the Constitution of Nigeria. I believe that the foundational issues are in the Constitution of the country. How should we be administered? And there is to make sure that the executive administers it accordingly. I may remind you also that when I was in that executive position, we had an issue about, I brought up an issue about this presidential system, even at the local government level. I asked certain questions. All the laws for the local government are made by the House of Assembly. So there's no assembly at the local government level. You now elect a chairman, and you elect along with him councillors. And you say that those councillors should not even be supervisors. Supervisor for education, works, health, and all those things. The chairman has the right to go and pick them because he's an executive chairman. So I ask, what is the function of the councillor? Why do we have to elect councillors? And I revolted against it. I said I would not even have a local government chairman elected. I will have all councillors. And they were true representatives of their people. From among themselves, they elected one to be the head of council. And that head of council will pick from among the councillors the supervisor for education, various supervisors, and everybody was given an assignment. At least they were working. But in this present presidential system, I beg of you, let somebody tell me what is the function of a councillor. Is it just to go at the end of the month and share money? Because he has no job. Just once you get elected as a councillor, you receive certain amount of money and so many benefits and do nothing. I still don't understand it. So there's a lot we have to look at and review if we really want to make progress.
Measures. The federal government has announced plans to stop funding professional bodies and councils. But some people believe that reducing or reviewing the salaries and allowances of current and past political office holders should also, be part of the cost-saving measures. I'd like to know what you feel about this.
Look, sometimes we miss the forest for the trees. If a state is able to pay allowances to people that have served them properly, how is that? I really don't know why we have to quarrel about that. I don't believe in these petty things about, this cost allowance, Look, if you administer a place effectively, there's no reason why the salary of his governor should be the same throughout. I wrote a paper not so long ago where I pointed out that the salary of Maine in the United States of America, and Maine is a state in the United States, is about 1/4 the salary of the governor of California. And his wife, at the time I wrote that paper, was working 3 days a week at a restaurant to supplement her husband's income. But here, everybody must be the same. Look, there's a lot to really look at and correct. We must cure all the defects of our federal system. Our federal system is very, very, very defective. We must cure those defects if we want to make progress.
Well, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Obong, Victor Attah, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday today.